Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Zubair Altaf Qureshi again with a new video, and in this video we are going to learn about the persistence in big IP F5. So before configuring the persistence, let's have a look on what is persistence. Right, so I have created few slides for you, so let's go through these and I will be explaining what persistence is, and then we will be I mean having a demonstration on our lab, right? So the persistence is a method in which wherein you might want one client to connect once the client connects to a pool member in the server farm in the pool, right? You depending on the load balance, it will be a load balance between the different servers, right? So if you want the client to stay connected to the same server once connected within a pool, then you will use persistence, right? And it will not be load balanced to a different server, right? So that is persistence. Big IP will keep track of the client and the server it connected to in the pool, right? So that is the persistence overview, right? So let's dig deeper. Okay, so just to elaborate more, I will take my pen, and let's say we have a we have a client somewhere on the internet, right? This is the client, and via internet it reaches our F5 server. Okay, this is our F5 server, and behind the F5 server we have a pool, right? So in this pool we have like three servers in our case. Okay, so when this client tries to reach the resources via HTTP or any other application. So what happens is, by default, what happens, the F5 will load balance this among the servers, right? But if you want to override that thing and you want this client, right, this client to connect to the same server every time, then we will use something called as persistence. Okay, and what will happen is, whenever this client comes up, it will say stay connected to this server one always. So but the question arises, how does this F5 keep track of the connection, right? So for that, let's look into our next uh, slide, right? So that is the slide. So this is based on certain types. Okay, the F5 itself keep track of client and the server it connected with using IP address of the client or the HTTP cookie, that is the most common wherein the cookie is used, and other methods. So this is how the F5 will keep track of the connections and the client that has been connected to a particular server, so that the future requests are forwarded to the same server again and again. Okay, so the most common would be the top two, the source IP address and the HTTP cookies. But the cookies will be only used when we are using the web application, right? So let's see what these types are. So persistence using your source IP address. Big IP keeps keeps track of the client IP address. Big IP will create a persistence record. So obviously, the big IP is going to create a record after about the connection, right? Who's the source IP address and the pool member and the pool, right? Okay, the mask actually determines how persistence record is created, IP address of the network, right? So for example, let's say you have a pool, you define this persistence client saved by /32. That means a single host, right? So what happens is, your if you have 100 hosts, right, server farm, and then what will happen is this F5 will create a total number of 100 persistence records create on the F5, right, because of the /32 mask, wherein say you use a /24 mask, right? So that means for the same 100 host from that server farm, right, from that client, what happens is only one persistence record is created. So for the whole, then what will happen is the whole subnet will go to the same server, right? So that is how it is. And one more thing that you need to consider, right, while having this. So let's just again grab my pen. What will happen is, say for example, you, so there is a company, right? There is, okay, grab my pen. So there is a company, and they are using a firewall, okay, and they have like clients inside it, one, two, three, four, hundreds of clients, say hundreds of clients that are connected on the LAN, and then it's connected via the internet to your F5, right? It's trying to reach any service through your F5, and then you have your pool numbers, right? Pool numbers, nodes, pool numbers. So what happens is, whenever this request comes from to your F5, what is going to be the source IP? What is going to be the source IP? Usually, what happens in the companies is they use NAT. Usually, they use PAT, or you can say NAT overload. That means all the internal addresses will be translated to a single address. Say this is a public IP address of 100.1.1.99, right? So the source IP is going to be always 100.1.1.99 for this, for any user that is coming from inside, right? So in that case, you have to consider these things, right? So this, in this case, source IP will not be, I mean, feasible, because what will happen is all the hundred, or I mean, how many users are inside, they are going to connect to the same server and eat up the resource, right? And performance is going to be affected, right? So that is something you have to take into consideration, and that is what my next slide was about. So clients that exist behind the same NAT gateway, firewall, or router using the same source IP address, for example, PAT NAT overload, application server farm enabled for persistence using source IP address. Major client is from the same company, right? 100 clients behind the same NAT gateway, all 100 client connections could be established to the same server in the pool. That is what I explained to you. So the next one is the persistence using cookies. Okay, Big IP tracks client using an HTTP cookie, only applicable for web farms. So I told you before also, this is only applicable for the HTTP application. I mean web applications. Okay, so let's see this in depth. So let me just grab my whiteboard again, and let me just explain this to you. So let's say we have again a client, right? A client sitting on the net, and then it connects through your F5, right? Through your F5 to the server farm, right? So you have three servers here. Great. So what happens is, in the HTTP cookie, right? So this, uh, so I'll be, I mean, explaining one type in this demonstration. What will happen is this, this F5 is going to create a cookie, right? He is going to create a cookie and then install this on the client. You can check this cookie in your browser. Okay, so this F5 is going to push a cookie to a client. This cookie will contain an ID, okay, say 4563. Okay, this ID is actually created here. So it will have an ID, and it will have the details about the server, the pool, and the pool member, right? So it has the ID 4563, and it says go to server 3, right? So this is how it keeps track. So when this cookie ID comes to F5, he knows where to forward the request, right? So that is how the cookie works. Okay, and this is just for the HTTP, and you cannot use, say for example, using FTP, you cannot use this thing, this cookie. Okay, FTP, not FTP. This is not Cisco. Okay, fine. let me erase this and let's move forward with the next slide. And the next slide is about, yeah, about the persistence using cookies. So we have three modes: insert mode, rewrite mode, passive mode. Let me just again grab my pen, and again I have to draw the same thing. So in the insert mode, what happens is the same thing that I explained to you, right? The F5 here is the F5 and the server. What happens is this F5 creates the cookie and forwards it to the client. So that is your what, insert mode. Okay, insert mode. And then we have the rewrite mode. Rewrite mode, what happens here is the server creates the cookie, and then the F5 rewrites it, okay, with the pool member and all the details, and then forwards it to the client, right? That is your rewrite mode. And then you have third one is passive mode. What happens in passive mode is the server itself creates and fills in the detail, and then the F5 forwards it to the client directly. That is your passive mode, and that is what is explained in this slide that I have. Okay, so insert mode, only the big IP creates the cookie. Rewrite mode, the server and the big IP creates the cookie. Passive mode, only the server creates the cookie, right? So that is the types of cookie, right? Then persistence using cookie considerations. Client disable the use of cookies, not recommended. Obviously, if the client on the internet they disable the cookies, so obviously it will not be working then. I mean, the cookies will not be installed, and the F5 cannot keep track, right? And then again, time on the client system is incorrect. So, okay, what happens is these cookies have these timestamps, and they are, I mean, valid for a certain time period. And if the timestamp is time is not like in correct in the system, client system, then obviously this will not work. Yeah, so that is how it is. And let's have a demonstration of the persistence on our lab. For that, I have the big IP here, and what you need to do is you need to go to the virtual, I mean this let me go to the statistics first. Dashboard, not the dashboard, statistics here, and then LTM, and then my pools. Let me just reset this. Okay, let's I mean reset this statistics before we deploy the cookies persistence. And before we apply the cookies persistence, let's check what is the method that is being used by our virtual server, right? So that is our statistics. We go to the pool, yeah, HTTP pool, and go to the members, and we see it's round robin. Let's I mean verify this. Let's go to my virtual server, then statistics, or not here, in the traffic, local traffic, and then here we will go for pools, right? So this is I will have to reset this. Okay, till the time this gets resetted, let's go to my Linux machine here and test this. Let me check the IP address that I have. So I will configure this on my 192.100 or 120, and let's keep the gateway as my F5 and exit and close. And now let's HTTP to my virtual server IP, that is 192.100.150, and this should be using the default I don't remember the password, Cisco123 with a capital C, is it? No, I don't think it's with a small c. So admin and small Cisco123. So yeah, so this should be using the round robin. That means I should see all my servers 1, 2, and 3, right? So if I go to my statistics, I can see it's load balancing almost, I don't know, some issue. But it's load balancing in a round robin fashion, right? So now let's now that we have verified this is using the round robin, now let's configure the cookie type persistence, and we will make sure that the server stays connected to the first server that it connects to in the pool, right? So in order to create this uh, persistence profile, you need to go to the virtual server here, click in the virtual server, and you see the profiles here, right? So these are the different profiles that can be applied to the virtual server. So you can think the profile as the instructions that the virtual server should uh, have in order to process the request and send it to the pool members, right? So here the first thing that you need to keep is the protocol. That should be TCP, because this is HTTP is based on your TCP, right? So TCP, and then here in the profile client, not this one, sorry, in the HTTP profile you have to select HTTP, because I told you that this works on the only on the web based applications, right? So after this you need to click on update, and let's wait for this to complete. And then next what you do is you have to specify the type of uh, persistence, right? So you go to resources here, and default persistence profile, here you can see it's none. So you drop down and you can see here different types of persistent, different persistence types, and in this we will select cookie and update. Okay, now to verify this we have to go to our Linux box. Okay, and before going to the Linux box, let me check the statistics here, and not this one again, traffic and LTM, and here I will select pool. I'll reset the statistics here. Okay, so this time it should connect to one of the servers, and then it should stay connected to that server uh, no matter how many times I initiate the request. So I'll just enter here. So it's connected on 3, and it should stay on 3, right? So yeah, so it's staying on 3. Now if I go here and refresh my page, I can see all the traffic is being transferred to server number 3. So this is persistence based on cookie. So you will see a cookie that has been installed on this browser, but unfortunately this is in very tiny machine here, Linux machine, that uh, has no option to see the cookies. But if you go to the in your lab, if you go to say, if you're using the Chrome, you can see the settings. In the cookies you can check the cookies that has been installed, right? And also you can see the details. uh, I will just take a snapshot and show you guys how it will look like. So it will look like something like this. So if you grab a screenshot, and you can see the cookie that has been installed, and you can also check the details inside that cookie, right? So you can see that pool member name also specified there. So that is how the cookie persistent profile works. And yeah, that is it for this videos, guys. And I will demonstrate the source IP based persistence in my next video. So stay connected, and bye bye for now. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and share my channel, and share my videos, and do comment what else you like in my video, right? Okay, bye bye, thank you.